Welcome Home, a podcast for veterans, about veterans by veterans, is a project of Willing Warriors and the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run.
Good morning. I'm your host, Larry Zoliax, Director of Culinary Services here at the Warrior Retreat at Bull Run. This week, our guest is Commander Joe Ramirez. He's commander of the American Legion Post 283 in Pacific Palisades, California, which I'm sure everybody is well aware that that's an area that's just been ravaged by wildfires recently. And I did a little bit of research and looking online, and it turned out the post itself was spared, but not by much. The fire was really knocking at their front door. So I reached out and I'm really happy that Commander could join us, and we'll just spend a little time talking about the post, talking about the members and veterans in the community at large. So Commander, thanks for joining us.
Well, you're quite welcome. And I can tell you how appreciative, not only myself, but I probably speak for everybody, for having an opportunity to provide awareness. It's a tragic event, situation, unexpected, but interestingly, being veterans, we are kind of conditioned to deal with this. Mm-hmm. I would say the only difference is that literally this is hitting home. Yeah. And so when it hits home, literally your house, it becomes a different scenario. But we're going to be stronger than ever as we work together and with our community to come out of this.
Tell us a little bit about the post. How big is the post? It's located right sort of downtown there. I think you share a building with the post office. Tell us a little bit about the post and your membership.
Well, probably like most American Legions or posts, we have a good portion of Vietnam veterans that kind of carried on the legacy from the World War II. And we have a good portion of Desert Storm, and then now post 9/11. And we're up to about 700 plus members.
Wow.
Yeah. And out of the 700, probably close to 100 were affected by the disaster. Either they lost their homes completely or they become displaced. And I don't know if you know anything about the American Legion, but they also have a family, which is the Sons of American Legion, and then the auxiliary. When you put it all together, you got a couple thousand members that belong to the post.
Your post is right downtown, and the fire was right there. It was a block away. A whole lot of homes very close to the post were destroyed. Kind of walk us through what it was like when the fire broke out and start to come in the direction of the post, what that was like for the members and for you to think, geez, are we going to lose the post, or what's going to happen?
Really good question. And by the way, it was closer than a block away. We're talking, it was across the street. Mm-hmm. That's how close the fire came to our building. To step back a little bit and share with you where I was actually at another building a few blocks over, and you hear the fire engines and the sirens, and you hear that quite a bit, right? Whether it's on the freeway or once in a while in the residence, right, or at home, but you never really kind of in your mind conceive that this is going to affect you. So I was at my office, and I stepped out onto the, the front of the office, and I saw the smoke. And then I thought, well, this is bad. Went back in, and about, I don't know, maybe 7 minutes later, I come back out, and I could see the flames literally a parking lot over. And that's when I thought, okay, I'm going to be a part of the evacuation, and got in my car and got out. Now, the post, particularly, same thing. They were starting to realize that they needed to evacuate. And when that happened, and some people actually, because the cars got so jammed up, had to leave their cars just in the middle of the road. And they had to use a forklift to move those cars over when they were trying to put out the fire. So it became a mess rather quickly, and you probably have heard some of the criticism as a result of, not being fully prepared, and that is all true. But getting back to the affecting the post, once we all evacuated, then it was watching the TV, texting each other back and forth to see whose house was spared. And of course, was the American Legion spared. And that was a very intense time period for all of us. It was almost like watching a thriller on Netflix. We just were so worried, as you can imagine, about damage and physical harm. And then at some point, and sorry for carrying on this way, but I think it's important information. At some point, we started thinking of people that we haven't heard from. So imagine that. Like, wow, I hope Larry's okay. I hope Rich is okay. So then it became an even more intense time period. It was about 24 to 48 hours before we kind of had a little check-in, so to speak. Thank goodness for technology. And then after about 48 hours, we didn't know if the post was still standing. And then finally, in conclusion into this part of the story, we, some people actually, as military terms would describe, infiltrated onto the area. And when we shouldn't have been, including myself about 3 days later, and there was able to get pictures of the post to let everyone know that we were fine. And I actually have a video, and I put it online. I'll be glad to share it with you, of one of our members being right there in the middle of the fire. And he was in his car. It was just a tremendous, tremendous risk he took. But he was so worried about his property that he had to go out and check it out. He made it, and it was fine. It was kind of a dumb thing that he did. He would admit that. But that's how intense this whole thing was when that all went down.
Yeah. Wow. Well, yeah, we know that veterans are adaptable, and that they can be very often more prepared than many other people for this sort of situation. But then the gravity of it, the size of it, and just the trauma of it can be overwhelming. And I know, a lot of our veterans have issues with PTS and that kind of thing. And how do you think it's affected the mental health of veterans in the area?
Too early to tell. It's too early to tell, but you can see signs of shock and awe and despair, especially if I'm talking to somebody and they were able to get an apartment or a hotel, and when they communicate to you in a very humble way, not even actually almost protecting their own selves, and you find out that they only have 2 pairs of clothes, or there's not even a microwave to heat something up, something as simple as that we take for granted, completely gone. And I think we're gonna, and we're gearing up for having to deal with that, because gratefully, or we've been blessed with having counselors as part of our membership who specialize in counseling. And of course, we're within 20 minutes of the VA. So we're going to be something, we're definitely going to be addressing that as it pops up. Because as you probably would know, and see out there, although it's changing, the veteran is not the first person first in line to say, hey, I need help with therapy. And I can tell you from personal experience, when I got out of Operation Desert Storm, I didn't want to do it myself. So, yeah.
Yeah, we know, we're well aware that veterans loathe asking for help. And they are the ones that usually help. And yeah, this is not the time for that. This is an all-hands situation. I want to direct our listeners to the webpage, which is www.283.com. So it's alpost283.com. And then if you then use /fire, you'll go right to a page on the website that details a lot of what we've talked about. But I want to draw everyone's attention to, there's a button after the first paragraph on the right that says donate. And I want all of our listeners to bang on that button and give what they can, because this is going to be a long duration event. There are going to be needs that have to be met for some time, and the VA will have a part in it. FEMA has a part in it. A lot of nonprofits have a part in it, and the Legion will have a part in it. And so it's really important for Legionnaires around the country, just everyone, to go ahead and make that donation. And the most important thing to understand here is you are giving a donation directly to the people who need it and who will manage it properly. Unfortunately, in times like this, you get all sorts of GoFundMe things pop up and organizations that come out of nowhere that are set up to help, and you just don't know who you're giving your money to. So you can give your money to the Red Cross. You can give your money to Team Rubicon. You can give your money to Post 283, and I guarantee you that they will use it wisely, and it will go directly to help veterans in the Pacific Palisades area that will need it now, as well as long-term, as they try to rebuild their lives. So, Commander, aside from money, if we have veterans listening who are local to your area, is there anything that they can do, make actual physical donations or volunteer in some way? What's the kind of support that the Post is getting from the community?
Well, I got to tell you, it's overwhelming funds and volunteers and donations other than monetary. And the challenge has been how to organize when you're not allowed on the property, and when you don't know who needs what. So we're getting there, and where we are today at this moment is setting up a distribution center with all of the stuff that has been donated, and we have actually trucks ready to come in. And by the way, I just want to make sure I mention this, the American Legion as a whole, from the national to the department to the area to the district, they're all really, really a part of this joint effort. That being said, we're not the only ones that need the help. You know, as you probably have seen, there's other fires. And if you want to see some positivity or look at some positive aspects to this, there is a community, including veterans, coming together to help out all people in need. And I mean, if you think about when we signed up to join the military, we're serving our country, and we're doing this on a local level, serving our city, the county, the local community, and of course, ourselves. So that's kind of a sidebar I wanted to kind of make sure I threw out there. But that being said, we, on that page that you're talking about, there is a place to sign up for volunteers, and then there's a place to donate. And we have someone in charge of the volunteers, and it's sort of like, sign up and we'll get back to you, because we're still getting the logistics place set up. And by the way, the funds, if I can elaborate just a little bit on that, I think there is this thinking that the government, when it comes to FEMA or their claims on their insurance, or maybe even the state, that we're going to be taken care of, right? And we all hope and pray that that is true. But the funds are used for what I call gap funding. When someone needs money now because they're trying to get into a hotel room, or because they're trying to buy a pair of shoes or a meal even. And so that's what that money is doing. And it's extremely valuable when you have somebody, and we just wired $1,000, not wired, I think we did a Venmo. Someone just yesterday, because they lost his house, and says, hey, I don't know what to do here. I've never been through this. And frankly, I've never asked for anything, but I'm at the point where I'm desperate and any help would do. And I'm like, this guy's a veteran. He doesn't even realize that the American Legion's there for him, and he belonged to the American Legion. And I guess that goes to being a bit in shock, and you're not going to operate at your best, especially when you have a personal tragedy or something that's affecting you personally. So, we're dealing with all of that the best we can, and I got to really thank the leaders of the post. There's about 10 or 11 on the board, along with probably another 20 people I would consider leaders, all helping out with this strategy and organizing and reorganizing and, changing and shifting, sometimes not only on a daily basis, but, on an hourly basis.
Yeah. So have authorities given you any idea of when you might have access to the post again, the physical location?
Well, we hear different rumors from the fire department to the police department to the people in the press that it could be literally of just a few days, or it could be as long as a year. And the reason I think for the uncertainty, the wide range, is because they themselves also, I think, are trying to understand the magnitude of the toxicity there. It's one thing that a house is demolished and fire has occurred. It's another thing to try to understand what type of gas leakage, what type of chemicals in combination created a hazardous situation when it comes to the air. It goes on and on. I was there yesterday, and it's just like 9/11. You see stuff still coming out from the ground, and the fire's kind of been put out.
Yeah.
In for the most part in that area.
Yeah, and you're talking with a very large amount of destruction. I mean, if people take the time, go to your webpage, there's a map on there that they'll have access to show exactly there, and that was all right next to you, and it's just an area of hundreds of homes destroyed all at once. So it's not like a neighbor's home or a couple of homes burnt. And, you don't have to be too worried about toxicity based on just that. But here you have that, multiply that by 100, and it's just crazy to think about it. Well, listen, I don't want to keep you. I know you're a busy guy. I want to tell our listeners, go to the webpage. It's www.alpost283.com. Once you're there, hit that donate button, give what you can. Help your fellow Legionnaires, or, they'll help the community as well. So it's not just, we're hoarding all this for the guys that pay their dues. Legionnaires give back to the community nonstop all the time. And so, listen, Commander, we wish you the very best. If there's anything you'd like to get the word on out, just let me know, and we'll have you back on. But I can't thank you enough for spending a little time with us today.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And as I mentioned at the start of this, not only are we going to get through this, we're going to get through this stronger and better, and hopefully a closer community when it comes to relations. We've had some really rough years in the political spectrum, and veterans aren't away from it because we are part of the country. So the silver lining, perhaps, to all this, that this will bring us together. That's, I guess, where I was leading to. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. And for our listeners, if you have any questions or suggestions, you can reach us at podcast@willingwarriors.org. We'll have another episode next Monday morning at 0500. Until then, thanks for listening.
The Welcome Home podcast is brought to you by Willing Warriors, a nonprofit organization serving active duty service members and veterans since 2012. To learn more, please visit our webpage at willingwarriors.org.